Imagine the richest person you know, a private jet, multiple homes, more money than they could spend in 10 lifetimes. Now imagine a homeless man sleeping on a cold sidewalk. No savings, no security, no certainty about tomorrow. If you had to guess, which one is happier? The answer seems obvious, but for decades, psychologists have been studying a strange mystery. A mystery so strange that it challenges everything we believe about success, suffering, and happiness itself. Because according to the data, the rich aren't as happy as we expect. The poor aren't as miserable as we imagine. And the true ratio of happiness and suffering inside a human life may be nothing like what most people think. Tonight, we're going to uncover the hidden math of human happiness. For most of human history, happiness seemed simple. More resources meant better survival. More food, more shelter, more safety, more happiness. So modern humans inherited a powerful assumption. If money solves problems, then more money must create more happiness. But reality turned out to be far more complicated. In the 1970s, psychologists began studying people who had won enormous lottery jackpots. These were ordinary people who suddenly became wealthy overnight. The results were shocking. Immediately after winning, happiness skyrocketed. But months later, many of them had drifted back toward their previous emotional state. The excitement faded. The new lifestyle became normal. The extraordinary became ordinary. And researchers began noticing the same pattern everywhere. A bigger house became normal. A luxury car became normal. A higher salary became normal. The human mind adapted, again and again and again. It was as if happiness had an invisible ceiling, a force constantly pulling people back toward a hidden baseline. Scientists eventually gave this phenomenon a name, the hedonic treadmill, and it raised a disturbing possibility. What if success doesn't permanently increase happiness? Then researchers discovered something even stranger. Some of the happiest communities on Earth weren't wealthy at all. In many low-income regions, people reported strong life satisfaction despite owning very little by modern standards. How could that be? How can someone with fewer possessions still experience joy? To answer that question, we need to look at one of the longest scientific studies ever conducted. In 1938, researchers at Harvard began following hundreds of people, year after year, decade after decade. Eventually, the study would span more than 75 years. Researchers tracked careers, health, marriage, income, success, failure, virtually every aspect of life. Everyone expected wealth and achievement to be the strongest predictors of happiness. They were wrong. The clearest predictor of happiness wasn't money. It wasn't fame. It wasn't status. It was relationships. Strong friendships, close families, meaningful human connections. Again and again, the same pattern appeared. People surrounded by strong relationships lived longer, healthier, and happier lives. A poor person connected to a loving community often outperformed a wealthy person trapped in loneliness. And suddenly, the happiness mystery became much bigger. If happiness wasn't controlled by wealth, then what was controlling it? To answer that question, scientists turned to genetics. One of the most influential studies came from researchers David Lycan and Auke Tellegen. They studied identical twins separated by different life circumstances, different incomes, different careers, different experiences. Yet their happiness levels remained surprisingly similar. The findings suggested that much of our baseline happiness may be built into us from birth. Psychologists began calling this the happiness set point. Like a thermostat inside the mind, life events could temporarily push us higher or lower. But over time, many people drifted back toward their natural baseline. Lottery winners, accident survivors, successful entrepreneurs, ordinary workers. Again and again, the same pattern emerged. The mind adapted, returning toward its default setting. But there was a problem. If humans naturally return to a baseline, then why do so many people feel like life is filled with suffering? The answer began emerging from global happiness research. Psychologist Ed Diener analyzed data from dozens of countries around the world, different cultures, different economies, different lifestyles, and he found something surprising. Most people weren't living at emotional neutral. They were slightly above it. Across much of the world, people reported more positive experiences than negative ones. Not dramatically more, but consistently more. Scientists started calling this phenomenon the positivity offset, the tendency for humans to experience life as slightly worth continuing, slightly worth pursuing, slightly worth waking up for tomorrow. From an evolutionary perspective, it made sense. A species dominated by hopelessness would never survive. Humans appeared to be naturally tilted toward mild optimism. And if the story ended there, the hidden math would be easy. But then another discovery changed everything. In 2001, psychologists published a paper with a title that became famous: Bad is Stronger Than Good. The research revealed one of the most important truths about the human mind. Negative experiences affect us more deeply than positive ones. One betrayal can outweigh years of loyalty. One criticism can overshadow 10 compliments. One painful memory can survive for decades. While many happy moments fade surprisingly quickly, the reason lies deep inside our evolutionary past. Imagine two ancient humans. One ignored a beautiful sunset. The other ignored a predator hiding in the dark. Only one mistake was deadly. So evolution built a brain that pays more attention to danger than pleasure, more attention to loss than gain, more attention to pain than comfort. Scientists call this the negativity bias. And suddenly, the happiness paradox made sense. Maybe happiness happens more often, but suffering leaves deeper scars. Now we can finally return to the question: what is the true ratio of happiness and suffering? 50 to 50? 60 to 40? 70 to 30? The scientific answer is surprising. Nobody knows. There is no universal ratio, but the evidence points towards something fascinating. Most humans appear to experience slightly more positive moments than negative ones. Not because life is easy, not because suffering is rare, but because evolution seems to have designed us that way. Enough happiness to keep moving forward, enough suffering to keep paying attention, enough optimism to survive, enough pain to learn. The balance isn't perfect, but it may be intentional. A system refined over millions of years, not to maximize happiness, but to maximize survival. So, are rich people always happy? No. Are poor people always miserable? No. Is life perfectly balanced between happiness and suffering? Probably not. The evidence suggests something stranger. Happiness may occur more often than suffering, but suffering leaves deeper footprints, which makes the two feel equal. And perhaps that's the hidden math of human happiness. Not a simple 50-50 equation, but an ancient calculation running silently inside every human mind. A calculation shaped by evolution, refined by experience, and still influencing your life right now.